Adam.
And the serpent, you know.
And the serpent, and how it all relates and ties in together. And now, just talking about the serpent in itself, I've come from a Catholic and Christian background, and just the intonation of serpent in itself has some negative connotation. But I believe that's in the process in itself, and the acknowledging of this wisdom, that when you are able to go past the egoic fear of what the serpent is all about, and to delve more into the deeper levels and realms of what the serpent actually means in Revelation, it becomes all the more astounding, intriguing, synchronistic, and very not only magical but miraculous in its sense.
Well, are you familiar with the ancient Greek story about the phoenix rising?
Oh yes, definitely.
Okay,
sure.
Well, here's something that I don't know.
Ross, before we get into that, we do have a couple seconds left within this segment, so I would just like to intervene just for a quick second and to take us into station identification break.
Right.
But when we return back to Quantum Mindfulness Radio, we will be returning back in conversation with Douglas Ross Hamilton, who is one of the many wisdom-filled individuals who has definitely, for sure, in knowledge base, and not only upon the scientific or the philosophical, but also within the spiritual realms of things, concerning the great Serpent Mound, its builders, and within what is actually happening within our human landscape, as it refers to Mother Gaia, Father Sky, and to many other revelations and awakenings that are taking us into another level of existence. So thank you, Ross. We will be talking further about this on the next segment of Quantum Mindfulness Radio.
Hi, this is inspirational speaker Wamui Bahati, and you're listening to BBS Radio. If it's not mainstream, it's on bbs.com.
Hi guys, this is Angelica Redland. Now you can listen to my music from the CD So Far here at BBS Radio. If you like it, do check out my website, angelicaredland.com. You can also visit my MySpace, and it's myspace.com/angelicaredland. Take care and hugs to y'all.
And so now we are back to Quantum Mindfulness Radio on the second segment of the show, and I have with me my dear friend Douglas Ross Hamilton, my very special guest for tonight's show, as we will be continuing our conversation on spirituality, sacred geometry, revelation, global awakening, and the significance of what Ross has been emphasizing frequently from our many past conversations, the rise of the phoenix.
Yeah, phoenix rising. That's really my mission, Joel, in a manner of speaking. It's a big part of my mission, is getting people to know that the ancient myth of the phoenix, which came to us from Egyptian and Greek sources, actually is based upon a world myth that existed before Egypt and Greece took on their national identities as we think of them historically. And that is a story about a great figure on the landscape of North America that serves as a sort of melting pot for the light of a dimming Atlantis and Lemuria, and forms this third continent, at one time a continent of light. And the story goes that in the beginning, God created the Logos, or the Word, and it took the form of the great serpent, the Hebka, which is what they call it in Egypt. Now, in Greece, they called it the Python, after whom Pythagoras took his name. But the serpent is used to create the atom, which is what we call the proton, from the building block of all matter. But he was also sent to create the Atun, or, the Atman, the soul. And they're actually very similar, the proton and the soul of man, only the second one, the unseen, the invisible God, worked through his instrument, the great serpent, to put the holy breath. And so when the serpent regurgitated the soul of man, which you see in the Orphic mysteries, among others, you see this basic premise of the birth of the soul as being a superior entity to the proton. And then the soul goes, and we already discussed the various embodiments, starting with mineral, which, again, Rumi talked about. I started as mineral and died as mineral and became a plant. I died as a plant and became, a fish. I died as a fish and became a horse or a quadruped. And finally, after all these births, I had the honor of being given the form of the God-man, the shape of the universe, the microcosm. And going through that process, the soul, which has the divinity breathed into it, sees itself over as a master of matter. So the enlightened soul in the human form, it really has dominion over things made of the proton, because we're all the same essence. So man, when he's fully endowed with his mental capacities and spiritual capacities, with nothing inhibiting him, can command the matter of the earth in the same way that Jesus commanded the water and commanded water to turn into wine. You can manipulate molecules with your very thought when the mind is completely cleansed and purified. So during this process, there is the Lord, who is he's the sort of the chairman of the theater committee, if you will. I don't want to exalt the great master because he's really the great ceremonial master. I don't want to exalt him too much because everybody knows him by a different name. He incarnated as many different masters in order to get many different points of view that people tend to develop. That's why there were 7 great world religions and probably 7 perennial great philosophies, including Taoism, that pretty much embody all of the thought processes of man, because we tend to accumulate things in terms of 7 and 24, and of course 1, the unity. Everything is in duality. And so anyway, we do these things in order to embody as souls. So as the theater has prescribed, we create the great serpent to serve as a symbol for the Logos. And in the serpent's mouth is held this thing that could either be the solar representation, soul, the sun, or Saul, and one is the Son of God, or the Son of Man, which is the Son of God embodied in the man form. And the other one is the sun in the sky, but they're analogous to each other because everything's made of protons, and all protons are the God particle, as so to speak, not the one physicists look after. But our physicists are insatiably curious, and they continually smash it. But inside the proton, likely there are 24 particles, and that's the 24 elders sitting around the throne being the fundamental basis for all creation, the proton. So, as the theater progresses, the serpent rises above and takes his seat on Mackinac Island. And on Mackinac Island, he releases all of his glorious divinity and just nurtures the 7 mighty golden cities, the same cities that Coronado was searching for. But by that time, the Indian memory wasn't awakened enough or recalled well enough to tell Coronado where they were. But they extended from those cities that we mentioned before, and that whole body started. The 7 cities started processing the etheric light, which we call water right now in the Gulf of Mexico, and turned it into an etheric essence, releasing all of its life force. Like matter really is energy. But when we have this thing going on, this great machinery, the spiritual machinery of the Phoenix, and the 7 processing centers, and these all exist within our bodies too. So this is just an example. Then that picture of the Phoenix came to life and grew into its fullness for 1,000 years and spread its light and life throughout the grid to all points of this darkened planet. Well, it reaches its apex, and all these other little figures come to life on the surface of the planet. We have this wonderful golden age that lasts for several centuries, which is really a relatively short time, because the Phoenix goes through this cycle where it begins to deteriorate for 1,000 years, and it becomes a serpent, a lowly little worm in the Ohio Valley again. And during this time, we begin to forget that we're all ascended masters. But during the time of the ascending phoenix, we eat well, we see God, we fall in love with the Creator, and we get this spiritual technology that enables us to make these amazing gardens in which we can grow fruits that are luminous with light. And so we grow to the full potential of our DNA, and we become 10 feet tall. Some of us grow even taller. They say that Adam and Eve were like 10 feet tall. They were like the average, but some of the sons of Adam and Eve grew to be 12 feet tall. The potential for man growing is really quite limitless, and if man wishes to inhabit one of the elite gardens off of the phoenix, when the phoenix goes down, you can leave and live in one of the elite havens that surround the earth and grow to be 25 feet tall, 50 feet tall, because the environments of the etherealized environments of the havens, of which Atlantis and Lemuria are part of, their mainstays for many different havens. We call them fairy realms in the vernacular of the insular Celtic mythologies. The Elysian fields by the Greeks, the happy hunting grounds of the Native Americans, the Shangri-Las of the Indians, and the Turks and so forth. These are all havens that exist in this day, but they're more etherealized, and so the people live. The Chinese say that in their gardens you can live to be millions of years old. I've read it in some of the Taoist scriptures. Literally, you can live as old as the earth. But if you're lucky, you take part in the life cycle of the phoenix, and I'll tell you why that's lucky. Many of us serve the light of the phoenix, and so during the 5,000 years of darkness, we still incarnate, and we suffer through the gravity and all of the misanthropy and the abuse of women and children and animals, and we deny the existence of a God, and we become very dark, and so we pursue gold, and we pursue the pleasures that money, gold, can buy. And as a result of that, and I say we because essentially that's our darkest nature, and we're all very much alike. And so as the phoenix has gone away, and the Serpent Mound has been regarded more as an Indian earthwork that was made by a primitive culture worshiping serpents, you see that as the knowledge begins to come back, we suddenly begin to do this reversal beginning in 2012 officially, and the phoenix begins to rise as we recognize that we're living inside of this picture of a great phoenix that takes up most of eastern United States, if not all, and Canada, way out to what we call the Midwest and out to the Atlantic Ocean and so forth. And so as this phoenix begins to become illuminated, it's done through a specific spiritual science that operates in such a way as to stimulate a connection with the spiritual body of the earth, which our science knows nothing about, but we have causal and astral bodies, just like the human form has a physical body. Internal to us is an astral body that most people live in after they die. It's in the same shape and looks like the physical body, but it's no imperfections. And then there's the causal body within us, which is the causal plane, very, very, very subtle. And it's the angelic body, like the archangels live in it. And so, the Earth has a similar system. And what we do is the shape of the phoenix is on a specific part of the Earth grid, which goes all over the Earth. It's like a crisscross grid, very subtle and very small. And it's very much in the shape of a continuous number of hexagons. Different people have made the Earth grid seem to look like a tennis ball or a baseball or a volleyball or a soccer ball or any one of a number of other things that connect up their sacred sites. And so there's at least 20 different grids that people have created. But really, there's one grid, and it's just a bunch of little hexagons